All right, everyone get ready, because today we are going to deep dive into manipulative personalities.
Ooh, sounds intense.
It is, and it's going to be fascinating. You know those excerpts you all sent in from In Sheep's Clothing by Dr. George K. Simon?
Yeah.
This book is a total classic, and for good reason. Let me tell you.
It's true. Even though it came out back in like 96 and was updated in 2010, it's still so relevant today.
I know.
Dr. Simon just gets it. His insights into the minds of these manipulators, they're like timeless.
Totally. And his advice is so practical. You can actually use it, which is so important.
For sure. And he's not just some stuffy academic who's just theorizing about this stuff. He's been a clinical psychologist for over 25 years.
Wow.
Working directly with manipulators and the people they target. He even consults with businesses and agencies.
So he's seen it all.
Oh, yeah. He's seen it all.
Which makes his analysis even more...
compelling.
Yes, compelling. Yeah. So let's jump right in. The book starts with this idea of covert aggression, which Dr. Simon says is like at the heart of manipulation.
Interesting.
And it's not your typical bullying or even like giving someone the silent treatment.
The passive-aggressive stuff.
Exactly. It's way more subtle than that.
Underhanded?
Yes. Underhanded. Like sneaky.
It is. It's about getting what you want without anyone even realizing you're doing it.
Oh, so you're keeping your hands clean.
Exactly. You come off all innocent while still getting your way.
Like you're playing a game but pretending you don't even care?
Perfect analogy. It's like a chess match where your opponent doesn't even know they're in a game.
That's a good one. And speaking of games, these manipulators are all about winning.
Oh, absolutely. They need to be in control, to dominate.
It's like they see life as one big competition.
And they have to come out on top.
No matter what.
No matter who gets hurt in the process.
Wow, so they have this zero-sum mentality.
Yeah. One person's gain is always at someone else's expense.
So we know they want to win, but how do they actually do it?
Yeah. Well, that's where it gets really interesting.
I'm all ears.
Dr. Simon lays out all their tactics, and one of the most common ones is rationalization.
Rationalization.
Like they're masters at making excuses for their bad behavior.
Right, like that dad in the book, Joe.
Oh, Joe. Yeah, he's obsessed with his daughter's grades.
Totally.
And he justifies his controlling behavior by saying it's for her own good.
Good parenting.
Exactly. But it's really all about him.
His ego.
Yeah. He needs to look good and feel superior.
So he manipulates his wife, Mary,
into
going along with all his crazy demands.
By making it seem like he's just doing what's best for their daughter.
So sneaky.
But when you look closer, you can see his real goal is to control and dominate.
Classic manipulator move.
It is, and rationalization is so effective because it lets them avoid taking any responsibility.
It's like they're hiding behind a smokescreen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't see their true intentions.
And then there's denial.
Oh, denial.
That's a big one.
Which goes hand in hand with rationalization. Always. They refuse to admit they've done anything wrong.
Even when it's totally obvious.
The evidence is right there, but they just ignore it.
Like James, the minister in the book.
Right. He uses his wife's kindness to climb the church ladder.
Taking advantage of her.
But he's completely blind to the pain he's causing her.
It's like they build this wall around themselves.
And nothing can get through.
And we all know how powerful guilt trips can be.
Oh, for sure. Dr. Simon talks about Bill, who manipulates his wife Janice by making her feel guilty all the time.
Ugh, classic Bill.
He preys on her empathy and sense of responsibility.
And Janice is like a total giver, so...
Exactly. She's an easy target for him.
So Bill blames his drinking on her.
Making her feel responsible for his actions.
So she doesn't challenge him.
Right. He gets away with it because she feels guilty.
It's a classic tactic.
And it can be so hard to resist.
Especially for people who are naturally caring and want to help others.
They're the perfect victims.
But there's another tactic that's even worse.
Ooh, worse than guilt tripping.
Way worse, shaming.
Ah, shaming. That's a nasty one.
It's all about attacking someone's self-worth.
Making them feel inadequate.
And insecure.
Like they're not good enough.
It's like a slow poison that eats away at their confidence.
And makes them dependent on the manipulator.
For validation.
Exactly. They need the manipulator's approval to feel good about themselves.
We see this with Joe, right?
Yeah. He constantly undermines Mary's confidence as a mother.
Making her doubt herself.
So she'll rely on him even more.
Ugh, it's just awful.
It is. Shaming is a very destructive tactic.
And of course, we can't forget about playing the victim.
Oh yeah, Bill's a pro at that one too.
He's always deflecting blame.
And trying to get sympathy.
Avoiding any responsibility.
It's all about controlling the narrative.
Making himself look like the innocent one.
And shifting the focus away from his own bad behavior.
So we've got Rationalization, denial, guilt-tripping, shaming, and playing the victim.
That's quite a toolbox.
It's like a manipulator starter kit.
And that's just the beginning.
Oh, there's more.
There's always more. Oh, yeah. Dr. Simon goes into a lot more detail in the book. It's
I bet.
pretty amazing. And the thing is, these tactics, they don't just, operate in isolation.
Right. It's not like they just pick one and stick with it.
Exactly. They mix and match, adapt to the situation.
Like they're constantly refining their approach.
Precisely. And that's why it can be so hard to spot manipulation, right away.
It's not always obvious.
No, it can be really subtle. Sometimes you don't even realize what's happening until it's too late.
Until you're already trapped.
Yeah, caught in their web.
Okay. So how do we protect ourselves? The book isn't just about identifying these personalities, right?
Right. It's not just theory. It's
gotta be practical.
Exactly. Dr. Simon gives us some actual tools to deal with this stuff.
Tools we can use.
He calls them tools of personal empowerment.
I like that.
And the first one is just awareness.
Okay. So knowledge is power.
Exactly. Once you understand the game they're playing, you're less likely to fall for their tricks.
Like knowing your opponent's playbook?
Yeah. You can anticipate their moves and counter them.
So what else can we do?
Well, another powerful tool is refusing to accept their excuses.
Like calling them out on their BS.
Basically, don't let their rationalizations or justifications sidetrack you.
Like Mary, the wife who finally stood up to Joe.
Yes. She stopped buying into his good parenting narrative.
She saw right through it.
She did, and that's a perfect example of another tool.
Which is?
Judging actions, not intentions.
Okay, because intentions can be deceiving.
Especially with manipulators, they're masters of saying one thing and doing another.
So we got to focus on what they actually do.
Exactly, not what they say they'll do or what they claim their motives are.
Actions speak louder than words.
Always. And then, of course, they're setting personal limits.
Boundaries.
Yes. You have the right to decide what you will and will not tolerate in a relationship.
You get to choose.
You do. Don't be afraid to draw a line in the sand.
And say no more.
Exactly. Like Jean, the minister's wife, she finally reached her breaking point.
She put her foot down.
She did. She told James she wasn't going to put up with his neglect anymore.
Good for her.
It's about reclaiming your power, setting healthy boundaries.
What about making direct requests? Is that a tool?
Absolutely. Sometimes we get so caught up in trying to please others.
We forget about our own needs.
Exactly. So instead of hinting or hoping they'll figure it out,
just tell them what you want.
Clearly and assertively.
No more beating around the bush.
Right. Use I statements to express your needs and expectations.
Without blaming or accusing.
Exactly. Like Janice, who learned to communicate her needs to Bill directly.
That's great. And I think that goes hand in hand with holding your ground.
Oh, absolutely. Don't give in to their pressure or threats.
Stand firm.
Be prepared to walk away if necessary.
Like Don, who was being manipulated by Al at work.
Right. He finally realized his worth and was willing to quit.
Rather than be exploited.
It's about having self-respect.
So far, we've been talking a lot about personal relationships.
Right.
But this stuff plays out on a larger scale too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Dr. Simon talks about how manipulators thrive in environments where winning is everything.
Like in a cutthroat business.
Exactly.
Right.
Or in politics.
Oh, yeah. Those are breeding grounds for this kind of behavior.
Totally. It's like a systemic issue.
Yeah.
The structures themselves reward these tactics.
So it's not just about protecting ourselves as individuals.
Right. It's about creating a culture where integrity matters.
Where people are held accountable.
Exactly. We need to shift away from this win-at-all-costs mentality.
Towards building healthy and ethical relationships.
Yes, and that's true in all areas of life.
Okay, so we've talked about tactics, personal relationships, societal implications. What about self-esteem?
That's a good one. I think a lot of people assume
that manipulators must have low self-esteem.
Right, like they're acting out because they feel insecure deep down.
But Dr. Simon actually challenges that idea.
He does. He says that many manipulators actually have high self-esteem.
Really?
Yeah, but it's based on a distorted sense of their own importance.
So it's like a false confidence.
Exactly. It comes from their ability to control and manipulate others.
That's so interesting. So trying to boost their self-esteem wouldn't really work.
Right. They already think highly of themselves.
It's just not genuine.
Exactly. It's not based on any real respect for themselves or others.
So if just like, trying to boost their self-esteem doesn't work, what do we do?
Well, Dr. Simon says we should focus on accountability.
Okay.
Like, they need to understand that their actions have real consequences.
So not letting them get away with it.
Exactly. They need to see beyond their own, like, self-centered perspective.
And face reality.
Right. Confront how their behavior is actually affecting other people.
And how do we do that?
Well, that's where those tools we talked about come in.
The tools of personal empowerment.
Exactly. Like setting boundaries, not accepting their excuses.
Judging actions, not intentions.
Right. All of that helps challenge their tactics.
And forces them to face the music.
No. It's like holding up the mirror and saying, look, this is what you're doing. This is the impact you're having.
Powerful stuff.
We can't make someone change, but we can control how we respond.
And what we're willing to put up with.
Exactly. This deep dive has been so eye-opening.
I know, right? It's like I'm seeing the world with new eyes.
It's amazing how much insight you can gain from just a few excerpts.
I'm definitely going to be more mindful of these tactics in my own life.
That's the key. Awareness is everything.
So before we wrap up, let's give our listeners some key takeaways to remember.
Okay, sounds good.
First, we learned that covert aggression is at the heart of manipulation.
It's all about winning no matter what.
Using those subtle tactics to dominate and control.
Right. And remember those tactics. Rationalization, denial, guilt-tripping, shaming, playing the victim.
Oh, and we can't forget seduction and diversion.
That's right. They've got a whole arsenal of tricks up their sleeves.
But we can fight back.
We can. By refusing to accept excuses, judging actions instead of words.
Setting those boundaries.
And being ready to walk away.
And it's not just personal relationships, right?
No, these manipulators can be anywhere.
At work, in politics, any system with a power imbalance.
We'll always be aware.
That's 10 points. Any final words of wisdom?
I'd say this: knowledge is power, but it comes with a responsibility to use it wisely.
Well said.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of manipulative personalities.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, stay aware, stay empowered, and stay curious.